the athletic assessment, a sports science center at Prometheus Sports Academy, which is going to help each one of our students. And of course, anybody who's an athlete would be able to leverage what we are going to build here. Kala is currently working with KPMG. She's heading or leading the sports advisory for KPMG. She's got 20 years of experience almost in sports. She's worked with Australia, India sports thingy, right? There is very little that normally schools know about the careers in sports management. The students who are really good in sports, they end up, either giving up on a sport when they enter 10th grade and 12th grade. That is when the dip happens. And the reason is because what am I going to do after this? You can leverage sports to get admission in colleges, that's fine. But and then chances of an athlete becoming successful are very low. But that shouldn't prevent you from pursuing your sport and aiming for gold in Olympics. But what if you're not able to make it? Are there any careers? What is the fallback option? What should you be doing? Wow. Did you all take lift? Huh? Good. That was the reason why everybody else was delayed. All right, quickly guys, take your seat. So Kala, once again, welcome to Prometheus School. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And I know I am excited, and I'm sure everybody else is equally excited and would love to hear about your thoughts on sports management career and whatnot. We also have amongst us Siddharth Rajans, who's on our board of governors. So welcome, give him a big round of applause, guys. All right, and KPMG team is also there in the front row. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Good morning. Good afternoon. Anybody's heard of KPMG as a firm? Do you understand or ever heard of KPMG as a consulting firm, as an audit firm, a Big Four strategic consulting firm? So why is a business consulting firm, and why am I, who heads sports advisory, here to talk to you on careers in sports? Thank you to the Prometheus team for encouraging this, because a big part of the myth buster today is that careers in sports, next time you think about it, shouldn't be about an athlete. It's beyond the athlete. It's not about the athlete. And that's really what we will talk through when we're talking about careers in sports. Now, there's two ways of doing this. One, I could come here and just give you numbers and data and just rattle you around with this. But what I thought is, we'll run through a couple of very practical case studies from the world of sport, and then we'll examine that and link it back to what the industry is, what's happening in India, what's happening globally, and why should we be talking about sports as a career today than ever before. And then we'll draw it down very quickly into skill sets, and then we'll draw it down to what at a university level should you be looking at if this industry is exciting to you. So with that, I'm just going to come to my first case study. Any football fans in the house? Do we recognize this athlete? Yeah, who's that? Okay, so who can recall what this incident is? Who wants to say what this incident was? Yes, go ahead.
So Ronaldo was offered to drink Coke.
No, what is this championship? When I say recall,
UEFA.
that I have no idea what
It's the UEFA Champions League. It's one of the biggest tournaments in the world.
Yeah.
So basically, Ronaldo was offered Coke. He had thrown it to the side and he had taken water.
So this is one of the major football championships. Let's not get into the semantics of which championship. Ronaldo comes in after the inaugural day when they've played. He sits there. There's 2 bottles of Coke, mini bottles. He keeps them aside. He picks up a bottle of water and he said, agua. Why did Ronaldo do what he did? Why did he do that? Because?
Because water is much healthier than Coke. And like, if you, as an athlete, if you have something that is unhealthy for your body, that can potentially like be one step closer to damaging your career.
Okay, fantastic answer. 3 cheers. So, because Coke is considered unhealthy, and Ronaldo is one of the fittest athletes we all know, he thought, I should not be endorsing this. He kept it aside and he almost said, and he said, drink agua. Now, Ronaldo is a very fit athlete. He's got thousands and millions of kids around the world like you who follow him for his athleticism, and he thought he had to do it. Was that right of Ronaldo to have done that? Who thinks yes? Who thinks yes? Who thinks yes? Okay? And why? Why yes? Same reasons we just discussed. Who thinks that's not right? Who thinks that's not right for Ronaldo to have done it? Yes, sir.
Coke paid a lot of money to put that bottle over there. And he should, okay, it's not about money, but yes, there was a reason why those bottles were there.
Why were those bottles there in the first place? The championships, right? Coke is a principal sponsor. Millions of dollars, you can't imagine, has gone into paying for that, so that football lovers here, just like me, can wake up at 1 a.m., set our alarms to watch these games. If Coke wasn't paying it, the games would not be telecast. Now, you're the championships, I'm Coke, I'm paying you for sponsorships. Isn't that a business deal between both of us? Isn't it your responsibility as championship to honor that business deal? And somewhere, a sponsorship intern somewhere in Coke has drafted a contract, and one of the points, point 13.1.6 is 2 micro mini bottles of Coke will be there on the press conference every day. That's a deliverable. Screen time. Now, if Ronaldo has such a problem, he shouldn't be playing in a competition sponsored by Coke, right? Personal ethics, if that was such a big problem. So, in one stroke, Ronaldo had breached the business ethics that the sponsorship company Coke is putting in. And remember, companies like Coke will throw millions of dollars because they are unhealthy. They are one of the biggest sponsors of sports in the world, because they have to flush the bad karma. And that will happen. Right? So now, the business ethics of it and the personal ethics of it. Now, it's Ronaldo, he can get away with it, but Coke came very hard on the championships and said, this cannot be allowed. Nobody is allowed to remove sponsor material out of that table. Right? Which was only fair to ask, because I put in the money, you and I had an agreement, you can't let anybody come and mess with that. This happened the very next day. Anybody recognize that athlete? Pogba. What a champ. So the next day, Paul Pogba comes into the press conference. There are 2 bottles of Heineken in front of him, which he removes. What is Heineken? An alcohol brand. Why is Heineken on the table again? Sponsor. Going by what we just spoke, can Pogba be allowed to remove it? No. Why did Pogba remove it? Unhealthy. Okay. Bad influence. Okay. The reason Pogba removed it, Pogba is a practicing Muslim. He was uncomfortable with a bottle of Heineken in front of him, which was against his religion, and he didn't want it, and hence he removed it. Now, as the championships, can I insist, I don't care what religion you are, that bottle will remain? Can I do that? let's go by the previous example. The day Ronaldo did that, we all know Coke shares fell drastically in the stock market. It faced one of its worst crashes, that little movement that Ronaldo did there. It's a great case study, business case study. If the championships had towed the same hard line that Coke had, if Heineken had done that, it would have caused a massive religious war in this world of religious ethics. So here you have like personal ethics, business ethics, and religious ethics warring against a background of championships. So Heineken came and issued a public apology and said, I'm sorry, if at any point there is an ethical, religious ethic or cultural sentiment that gets somebody to remove it, we as a company will honor it and we will not place it. The brand value of Heineken rose. The kind of goodwill that they received in media compounded. Let's quickly move to the next case study. Do we recognize this? Yeah, it's a pit stop. It's a pit stop, right? Okay. Now, what are things that happen in a pit stop? Okay, one second. I'll take one from here, one from here. What happens in a pit stop? Change the tires. Front wing? Anything else from here? What else happens in a pit stop? Change the? Okay, less murmur, otherwise we won't get past this. Yes, sir. Car is repaired. I'm sorry, I'm a Red Bull fan. Who's a Red Bull fan? Yeah, there you go. So sorry. All good. The car is repaired. What else happens? What else do you think? Refuel. Refuel happens. What else happens? Sponsorship. Okay. Let's pause here. There's many things that happen, right? Hang on. Refuel happens, tires are changed, the driver's a little given something to hydrate, there's little nuts and bolts that's repaired, the wiper, the glasses, the rear view mirror is kind of cleaned because, you know, they've been driving, it's all dirty, that gets cleaned, there's a check with the driver asking, how are you feeling, what's the heart rate of the driver, that's measured at the pit stop, what's the breathing condition, that's measured at the pit stop. If you are driving, if your tires need to change, is that an instant decision? How many data points go into what tires? Is the condition going to be wet? Is it expected to rain? Am I going to change to wet tires or dry tires? Do I need to change both my rear tires or just my front tires, right? There are a million data points that go into this pit stop. There's a set of people who are doing what they're doing, but the whole set of engineers sitting in a room somewhere looking at data points as well. How long do you think something like this would take? How long will it take? Less than a minute? It takes under 2 seconds is the world record, 1.82 seconds. Red Bull set the world record for 1.82 seconds. 1.82, that's, before you do that, 1.80, it started with Red Bull setting the standard and now it's getting lesser and lesser. Why is this? Hang on. The Formula One is a microsecond game. The sport, every microsecond is millions of dollars. The amount of research that goes, it's a microsecond game, right? So every microsecond you save, you have the edge. And then comes your team championships, the driver gets paid and all of that. So everybody, most often you think the driver is the most important person, not really. The amount of data engineers that Ferrari employs Who do you know the chief data scientist at Ferrari? He's a young kid from India. He's the chief data architect at Ferrari, who's looking at these million data points to get a sense of how can my car achieve more efficiency on the track. I want to pause with these two case studies, although, generally I do it as a 90-minute where I take from across the world different sports. So sorry if your favorite sport is not there. But from the two case studies that we just heard, what kind of jobs come to your mind in sports? What did we hear? Engineering, data analysis, sponsorships. What else? Journalism, fantastic. Management, data science, medicals, media, environment as well. And I'll explain a little bit of that. None of this had to do with playing football or driving the car. The whole ecosystem is very different. And we come to a little bit very quickly around what I mean by that. At KPMG, I'm sorry if it's small, but I'll read it out for you. At KPMG, in our firm or more broadly, we look at sports as 16 subsectors. 16 subsectors of sports. And what I mean by that, let me just explain to you. When I'm talking careers, which is all of this, I'm essentially a strategy person or a marketing person working in a consulting firm, and I'll be working with a range of these companies, providing them strategic consulting advisory, tech or non-tech. Central and state departments, the Ministry of Youth Affairs, there are central departments of sports, there are state departments of sports, which is going to need people of all range of capabilities. There's governing bodies like federations. Like, what do you mean by federation? For instance, you have a BCCI, that's a federation. We are advisors for the Cycling Federation of India. So how does cycling as a game grow? How do you look at more athletes coming to cycling? How do you look at more money coming into cycling? How do you make more people cycle? This is all the advisory that we would give to a governing council body. So that's BCCI. And then you have a sports league. What's a sports league? An IPL is a sports league under BCCI. So what do we do as a firm? What is the media rights for IPL? What's the valuation of a particular team? That's a club level, sorry. What's the valuation of IPL? How much of sponsorship value would you sell it for? What's the analytics of the viewership? That's at a league level. Or you can work for a particular club. Now, league is not just Indian league, like we work with EPL. How many of you know EPL have opened their office in India? English Premier League has a full-fledged office in India now. Hiring media people, hiring marketing people, hiring communications people, hiring managers of analytics, hiring AI people, hiring community officers. This is the English Premier League, right? Set up in India. So you have Indian leagues, you have international leagues, you have clubs, and then you have sports manufacturing and media. What's happening with manufacturing, as you know? Globally, everything that you're talking about, which is, today you have today really sports goods, your jerseys, your tracks, they've all become fashion. So where the whole sports fashion business is actually taking is massive as well. So these are all some of the subsectors. In our first row, I'll quickly walk you through one of the biggest areas is sports infrastructure. Sports infrastructure is what you're seeing here. Sports architecture. How do I build stadiums? How do I build energy efficient stadiums? How do I build smarter stadiums? How do I create tracks? There's every community today you see is advertising the sports infrastructure that they have as well. So you're beginning to see architecture and design move extensively towards sports. So you can be an architect, but if you understand sport, you kind of understand the ecosystem better as well. Venture capital funding, everybody who's in equity research, and today the amount that VCs are pouring into sports is huge. Rain Matter, Zerodha's Rain Matter, we've been tracking, one of the biggest funding, Center Court Capital. These are all massive firms in their own rights. Corporates are investing. India has created a mandate that every corporate in India must adopt a sport. The government has indicated that every corporate must encourage in sports. And they also have to encourage CSR spending. You understand CSR, corporate social responsibility in sports. So every company today, whether you take an SBI Foundation or you take an Aditya Birla, have a sports venture. Yeah. I think somebody else needs to grant that permission. Feel free to move for the right reasons. Sports technology. Anybody who's interested in wearables, data, analytics. Today, everybody is talking about wearing a gadget, measuring athlete systems, measuring heart rates. So the medical devices and sports are becoming such a closely integrated community. Esports, sports education, universities, sporting events, tourism, the athlete economy and GCC. I want to highlight two critical areas where India is going to become the biggest. Do you all understand what a GCC is? Not Gulf countries, don't tell me that. Global capability centers. Global capability centers are multinational companies bringing their entire capability to one center in the world. So everything from their finance, technology, inventory, process, billing, everything is going to be centered in one location. What that creates is lots of jobs in that one location. Where do you think Adidas is? You have heard of Adidas, the brand? Yeah. Where is their global capability center? Germany, says somebody. Where's Adidas's global capability center? Which means everything that Adidas does from a process standpoint. It's in Chennai. Imagine. Right? DAZN, heard of DAZN? The largest streaming today, anything outside cricket you want to watch. They are the $1 million sports media company. Where is their global capability center? Hyderabad. I was there last month. 8 floors of just madness of sports media streaming that's going on. Young kids just working on anything and everything that you can ever imagine. Let's talk about esports. One of the largest Dublin-based companies has also moved to Hyderabad. This whole movement of global capability centers into India is happening because this is where the young talent is going to be. This is also going to be the market that is going to be the youngest in the world. And the consumption of anything sports related is going to happen. It's not about playing sport, I want to tell you that. This is about living in the vocabulary of sport. It's about enjoying talking sport. It's about understanding that industry. So today when we're looking at sports, it's not a singular lens of management or events. It's much larger than that. One of the biggest projects that we worked on is during IPL at Dharamshala Stadium. We did a pilot project, and that was all about fan experience. You could come, but Digiyatra, all of you have experienced Digiyatra at some point. I must hope it worked well for you because we did the testing around that. So we tried to bring Digiyatra into an IPL stadium. Can you walk in face recognition? Can you interact on the walls of the stadium with your favorite stars? Can you order food from your seat? All this was experimented. Huge amount of infrastructure and technology coming together as well. So just want to leave you with some thoughts of all that and where those jobs are. Athlete economy, I told you, is another big thing. Today you have a Sindhu, you have a Harmanpreet. All of them, the moment they win, Kohli, are launching businesses. Now they're going to hire, they have a whole, now you saw Sachin's just launched his own shoe brand. There's a whole team he's hiring. So as athletes are growing, they're also creating jobs within the economy. Their endorsements, they have a whole team that manages not just their endorsements, but the businesses that they're creating. Every day there's a company that's launching it. While a lot of the forefathers made their money in steel and petroleum and all of that, the next generation, whether it's Ambani's, whether it's the Jindals, whether that's the Birlas, whether it's the Singhanias, they are investing in sport. And you will look at that the next generation is investing in sports. Because sports is not just about playing it, it's a way to connect with an audience. And it's not about sports, as I said, it's everything from nutrition, wellness, psychology, all of that ecosystem, right? So as I said, the sports industry globally is growing at some 500 billion, 5.8%, but India is growing 3 times faster than the global average. We are still 20 billion, and we have humongous space to grow, but the next decade or so is going to belong to this industry. So what I really want to talk about here is it doesn't matter what content you study, whether it's architecture, psychology, it's AI, it's technology, it's data, it's media, it's journalism, it's video, whatever that is, sports as an industry has the opportunity to absorb you. And that's really what you need to understand, that content and context are very different. It's not about, I study technology, I have to work in Microsoft only. Not really. You can be working for Liverpool Football Club. And that's a huge opportunity there that's actually brewing. If you love the space, and this comes to my final slide in terms of, I will leave some of this in paucity of time. I'm not going to each of those highlights because I have some numbers there. That essentially, what are the skills that you need? You have to be an enthusiast. It's not about having to run and win medals. You have to be enthusiastic about sports, and you got to enjoy talking about it. That's very important, and be aware of it. While I don't, I may not be playing it or whatever, it's important that day in and day out, I talk sports in my business. And we employ a lot of young interns, we give out student projects, because we want to keep the next generation connected to what's happening, and we also want to keep connected to what they are thinking as well. So be a sports enthusiast. Multi-lens application is very important. Sports is not about an athlete and sports events. As I told you all, it cuts across multiple areas, particularly the space of sports diplomacy. Mukesh was saying I was leading the sports strategy for the Australian government for 10 years, and it ended in a sports diplomacy pact between the 2 countries. So here you have politics, sociology, and sports coming together. Right? Because sports is blending communities, people coming together. That's a big aspect of sports. It's not about winning the medals as well, globally. There is an impact awareness, and there should also be an opportunity to say a story through numbers. And that's really one of the aspects that sports actually offers. So what I wanted to cover today is just more broadly that the industry is much larger than what you think. The opportunities are out there for you to examine. And the ability to move between each of those subsectors is pretty easy. I have a team that does, I lead the sports advisory, but I have somebody who leads sports tech. I have somebody who leads sports government projects. I will have somebody who leads our sports education initiatives. I have somebody who just looks at sports events and operations. I have somebody who just works with my international sports organizations, because that person gets global impact much better, right? So it's just one strategy team that actually has micro teams working on different aspects of the same industry. And hence it's just getting more and more exciting. Now what I want to do is, the last 2 minutes, kind of bring it down to industry understood, more broadly skills, and again, after this, happy to meet with whoever wants in-depth more conversations around skills. And then we come to say, how does that matter? What do I study? Do I just study a sports management program? And what we believe is we've been scoring a lot of universities around picking up what's best curriculum, what do they teach, and what was very interesting is also what some of the European universities were doing. And this is where we got a chance to actually interact with La Roche. La Roche is a top-of-the-line institution. Kanika is here. Thanks, Kanika, for coming down. She represents. Now, La Roche is based in Switzerland, top of the line. They work very closely with the Olympic Committee in all of that. And it's interesting how Europe is redefining this whole thing on climate change and action. Tomorrow you will have FIFA saying that the balls that they will use for football have to come from green, sustainable manufacturing processes only. And that drives a whole climate action around sport. And that could happen for people interested in that space. So now La Roche works at the center of all of that. And then they, from a established master's program, they introduced a bachelor's program. And we were very pretty excited to see what they had and to just give you a sense of how the world is reimagining sports education. So I've highlighted a few. Now this is a bachelor's of science. If you actually see, there is sociology, there's destination management, there's geopolitics in sports, there is international sports organizations, there's contract negotiations and stakeholder management, there is a whole sports psychology, sustainability and sustainable practices in sports. So this is not about just conducting sports in terms of marketing, business and finance. It's a holistic, liberal, interdisciplinary program that's centered around sports. And that really shows you how the world is looking at sports human capital in the world. And today, even as an organization, we are not hiring non-sports, we prefer not to hire non-sports management degree program holders. We are preferring more and more because I don't want to have to, when somebody comes in, I don't want to explain to them what's league, what's sponsorship, what's contracts and those things. I want them to come with that because they have to come in and start taking the business forward and running. So, and again, the industry practicum, right? So where you have your professional internship practical semester in your first year, you basically go and do a semester in UAE, you have your whole practical 2 weeks of immersion in UAE. I don't know how many of you are tracking, but if Abu Dhabi will beat the world as far as sports is concerned. Right? What's happening in that sports city, the vision that region is putting around sports is unbelievable. And now this is where Europe and that region work very closely. You also have a campus now in Abu Dhabi? Yes, we do. Yeah. So it's exciting to see how the world is moving. And I was very happy to hear from Kanika, they have an athlete scholarship program. If you're an athlete, you can actually, they work their entire sports degree based on your athlete's commitment. Yeah, she's from La Roche, so she's here. She's happy to work with Farin to give out the information. And you have their sports management program. Interestingly, La Roche is an elite Swiss university that offers its sports program from Spain, with a campus and immersion in Abu Dhabi. So you can imagine how that connects back into getting this holistic understanding of how sports is positioned. And they have a summer immersion as well, which they'll talk about. But I think if you're really enthusiastic, and I hope today, irrespective of whether you join the industry or not, you go back home with a little bit better understanding of what sports industry actually is and hope that uncovers for you. But if you're a little bit more enthusiastic and if you're doing your research, start looking at whether the program gives you this level of holistic coverage, because that's what the industry is going to ask of you, and those kind of people will be set for success as well. Practical immersions are very important. Having people who come across industry and teaching is very important as well. Anything else anything you want to hear from Kanika as well? But we are here. I don't want to hold you up. Whoever is very interested and enthusiastic, please come and talk to either of us from an employment perspective, education perspective. We're both here to cover both sides of the coin. But thank you so much. You've been a great audience. And I just want to leave one little thought with you as well of how micro this world is going. Any psychology enthusiasts here? Anybody wants to pursue psychology as a career and all that? So I mean, it's interesting because I'm a mom of a 29-year-old this year, and she is a psychologist, practicing psychologist in Melbourne. and she works in eating disorders. Keeps her busy 24/7, works in a hospital purely looking at eating disorders. And that's just how niche the world is moving. And it's getting, so irrespective of what you're interested in, the world will provide these intersections of population, education, all of this is going to intersect at all times, and at every intersection, you're going to have a career and a job and an opportunity. Don't restrict yourselves. Open your minds, be open to more information, experiment, because this is going to be your decade. All the best.
Thank you, thank you. That was an eye-opener for me as well. Lovely. I wish I knew all this when I was growing up, when I was in school or even in college. I would have loved to take a job with Ferrari. In fact, last week I was on a Ferrari drive and I bumped into a young guy, okay, from India. I think he studied from Pune. He now works for Ferrari, lives in Singapore. कितने साल का होगा? 28, 28, 29. And, you know, he's doing that analytics thingy and all, product management, whatnot. So I was amazed. And he's making good money. You're surrounded by amazing people, right? Thank you very much, Kala. It was such an interesting session. I'm glad that we invited you. And students, you have the opportunity to interact with her. I know that we have a lunch break also. So perhaps we could have one email from your team where if students want to ask questions, they could reach out. Would that be all right? All right, okay. So counseling office. Thank you, Fareen and Aparna, for arranging this session. Namrata ji, you want to do closing?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Kala. I mean, I am amazed with the type of options that we have in sports, because many of them were asking me, why are we attending this session? They did not know that we have so many options available. I hope you got to know it now and you'll try to explore it more and more. And please write to Ms. Kala through the email ID. She will be glad to help. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.